But it comes down to like personal responsibility, personal choice, a heart, an attitude of seeing other people as equal to, not better than or less than, equal to yourself. Because
Right.
that's almost, yeah.
It's so funny because we did that same exact thing that you just said. I said to him too. That is so
Yeah.
funny.
All right, all right. So we are getting started here. This is the Free to Speak and Think podcast. We have Michael Alexander here, or as he goes by online, his screen name Gyftid. And we also have John here, who is one of a very, very close friend buddy of Michael's here, or Mike for short. And his name is John. I do not know your last name. What is your last name?
Atkins.
John Atkins. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How do you know each other, and where are you guys located in the world?
So I'm gonna just cut this real quick. Don't ever call me by my full name ever again.
Okay. Got it.
Always call me Mike.
All right. We will.
John knows how I am. It's fine. It's just part of you knowing who I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I have a thing about people calling me Michael. It's just weird. I think
Okay.
Mike and Mikey makes sense.
Okay.
Me and John.
I can totally start it over. It's fine. It's fine.
No. It's
No,
fine.
No.
It's fine. We're here now.
Okay.
We're here now. We're here now.
All right.
It's part of the audio. You got to get used to this, man. This is the whole point of the conversation that makes it fun and entertaining, right?
All right.
Me and John met. Sadly enough, we met in CACI, which was a place that was IT related. We met there, and literally, I think we were just doing a whole bunch of work, right? Like we were just doing work there, John. And then like he wasn't like really like looking out for me or anything at this point in time. When he first met me, this guy literally looked at me and was just like, "Oh, it's just a new guy," you know? It's kind of funny. And then our boss switched me to late shifts, and then it was just me and him all the time. So this is literally how me and his relationship began. Is like never talked to me. I got switched to late shift. Then this man starts talking to me, and me and him have been pretty much like on every subject known to man talked about. So it's pretty interesting that he knows like that's how I am, and I always tend to let him understand like the different point of views, just like he does the same for me. So it's pretty cool that we have that like synergy in that sense.
That sounds awesome. All right, John, go ahead.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, we met up working out in Virginia, and yeah, Mike, he's an interesting dude. He just stood out to me. You know, he was right. I observed him at first. You know, I didn't know what to make of him at first. But yeah, sure enough, we started working the late shift together, and yeah, I don't even know how we started like talking about the stuff we did, but yeah, the topics range from anything and everything. So yeah, we just bonded off that because yeah, that's it. And I'm currently in Augusta, Georgia, and you're up in where are you at? Where are you? I'm trying to.
I'm in Virginia.
I know you're in Virginia.
Woodbridge area.
Woodbridge area, yeah. Man, okay. But
I was waiting for you to like kind of get there, man. You know,
it's been a long day. But yeah. He's up in Woodbridge, Virginia, and we stayed in touch ever since then. So
nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome to hear. All right. So topic today, you guys chose as human life. It sounds like a very vague topic, but it sounds like you guys have had a lot of conversations on this topic before. So go into a little bit of that background, why you guys think you might be qualified to speak about human life.
Human life.
You want to go first, John? Because my segment will probably be a little bit more longer, or you want me to go?
I think, yeah, I'll spin it off a little bit. I think a lot of it, what we discuss is more so like the why behind the what. Like, why do we do the things we do? Okay. Why is human nature as it is? And just question it. That's another thing. Yeah, we question pretty much everything. You know, we just don't take things as face value, okay. You know, and yeah, we just try to find the why behind it. So yeah, just human nature in general.
Okay.
Yeah. To add on to this, I won't say that I am qualified to talk about it. What I will say is I have a different way of looking at things. I don't think everybody realizes that they catch themselves in this box. And what I mean by that is like it's like a computer, right? When you build a computer, you have all these components that work together. And when those components are working together, that's what everybody becomes. They become this computer that works together.
Mm.
People don't get out of that box. And that per se is what is screwing human nature over, is what I say. Because when you have people thinking outside the box, aka like all the presidents we have, except for the few that I won't name because I'm not that mean. But like look at the first president, George Washington, for instance, like that's somebody who literally thought outside the box and thought about how to set up human nature and how to help people out. And if we had followed the plan that he had led for us from since the beginning, we wouldn't be in much debt that we're in now. So, I mean, just off of that
Debt
alone,
specifically, or
no, just in general, like
issues? Okay.
all the greatest people, aka like who made Apple again? John?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, aka Steve Jobs, one of the best human beings in the sense of knowing what he knows, right? But he thought outside the box. He's not cooped in this box that we build ourselves in, or this diagram that the government has made for us to stay in. And that's what makes human life different. And that's why I always tell people, like, you guys are in this box and you guys aren't even outside the box yet. You guys are just sitting in this box, following all the rules and regulations without thinking for yourself. That is the key thing here, is thinking for yourself.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's how I view it. I mean, John, if you get what I'm saying, you can commentate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
boxes all the time.
Yeah, just continuing the status quo. No innovation comes from that. So yeah, you'll have to be brave enough to take that chance. Like you said, yeah, Steve Jobs. No one was really thinking of, cell phones were a thing already, but no one really thought of like the touchscreen innovation. No one even thought about like carrying on a big iPad. He made it a thing somehow, some way. And now like Apple is just this incredible brand that he's made. But yeah.
Your audio keeps cutting out on me, by the way. Yeah, just a little bit.
Give me a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Let him reset that audio real quick. Why would you plug that mic in, man?
I don't know what happened to it, but yeah, I'm gonna try to make the best out of it.
Yeah, no worries. It's only happened twice, so you're good.
Okay. Yeah, that's why Elon Musk too, he's kind of like the eccentric type, he's out there, but watching him on the Joe Rogan podcast and just listening how he thinks, like you could tell him something in like some type of barrier or boundary, but he thinks outside of that. Like, who really thought of going underground in order to fight traffic,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how do you think of that type of stuff? But yeah, his mind is just, nothing is like a no to him. He finds, ways to circumvent, what is already established. So
so it sounds like a lot of changing your way of thinking to think outside the box instead of how society almost trains you or brainwashes you, in a sense, to think. I know that I experienced this in a small form through public education. They basically were training you indirectly to think that going to work at 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning and then getting off work at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. is normal, with a half an hour lunch in the middle. So they're training you to be an employee of a business. They don't necessarily teach you how to manage wealth, how to invest wisely. They don't teach you how to monetize any skills that you have necessarily or find gaps in a free market. They don't teach you how to, all of these other things that you realize, man, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s. I need
these skills
to know how to do this. And
right.
I didn't learn these things in the main form of education that most people experience in some way or another, in this country specifically. But I'm sure it's somewhat relatable to other countries around the world as well. So yeah, I think that that's totally a thing. I think that a lot of people can relate to that, in that they are set in their way of thinking, and they significantly struggle to think outside the box, or maybe it's easy for them, but they've, repressed it or limited it in some way, or inhibited it in some way. And even I like what you said about brave though, because it's not normal. It's not always comfortable. It's not
It's not natural.
It's not natural. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not natural for most people to, see a pen and think of anything but a pen. It's not natural for someone to see a car and think of anything but a car. I've actually had many job interviews where they say, "What do you see here?" And it's easy to just give the first answer, and they're like, "What else?" And it kind of forces you to think outside the box in that way. So, no, I really like that.
What I will comment on is schools have actually trained you to also be in jails, if you didn't know that. If you go to a podcast by with Jaden Smith in it, he actually commented about this, which was pretty cool. He's a young kid, was like 17 or 15 at the time, which was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, schools have been training us to be in jails. If you look at how jails operate, they make you walk on the right-hand side of the hallway the whole entire time. You have a set time of lunch, and then you only allowed a certain amount of recess time. What do jails do? The same exact thing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting to see that a young guy like him has also like opened his mind a little bit more to see the things that are going on in society. And that's literally what I strive people to think about.
Yeah.
Because you can't just be sitting here watching what you're watching and not understand, So
in that same way, I actually took a communication class, and we were challenged to do things outside societal norms or to challenge societal norms. So it was a homework assignment where we had to come back and talk about our experiences and write a paper or essay on it. And one of those was walking on the left side of the crosswalk instead of walking only on the right side of the crosswalk on a college campus. Another one was getting an elevator and face the back of the elevator instead of facing the front of the, because everyone just walks in the elevator and turns around. Like you're just facing a wall. Like everyone's getting off at the same time. Like, you may have some people like kind of go stand in a corner, not look at anyone, but it's just not normal. And it was very interesting to hear a lot of experiences about many things that we don't even really think about. It's just normal, and how in some way it's like organized, like efficient, but it's limiting for sure. So yeah, it just reminded me of that when you said only walk on the right side of the street. Only, yeah.
It's different. And that's why I say like even with Atkins here, like he knows how I am. Like we've gone on topics of like what international planes to like how we would build our own world and stuff like that. It's different. Everybody has their own point of view, and it's so crazy you're talking about like how you were looking at this picture for work. And what makes that very interesting is in my critical thinking class that I take now, my teacher is always posting something that's really cool. Mm-hmm. The last one they posted about was you have all these different shapes, right? And you put all these shapes in a category or whatever have you. Then the next one will add on more shapes.
Oh, okay.
Well, some people will, build a house out of it and say, this is how I view it as. I didn't even do that. I just added everything on top of each other. Like they're stacking, right?
Because okay, yeah.
What you got to realize is everything's a required skill, and the skills that you have can only be added onto. So therefore, making all the shapes different and building a house or something is kind of the same thing, but I add on to my skills. I don't take away from the skills. Like a house is cool and all, but if you don't have your skills set in stone, how are you gonna build a house?
Yeah, shoot. Once you think about it also, it's a good point, Peter brought up earlier about, we are pretty much trained from a very young age to think a certain way and even believe in certain things,
Yeah.
But once you really think about it, it's a whole wide world out there. What we may think is, objective, as in our thought process, it could be very much relative, even as minute as like the state you're in. Like if you go to another state, the group of people there may have an entirely different way of thinking. But if you go to a different part of the world, like it's a whole other type of thinking, like people's beliefs, what they hold value to them, so it's easy to get lost in that, and that's why I think yeah, me and Mike, man, we always say it's good to keep an open mind, and always just keep searching for
Your
just
own
new
answer.
avenues of yeah, that too.
Your own answer.
There's a lot of gray. That's the thing too. There's a lot of gray to everything too. So you have to stay fluid in that sense of of how you look at things.
So what would be the best way, in your opinion, both of you, to begin, for someone listening, to begin to think outside the box that they've kind of been raised in, or been living in their whole life?
I'd say honestly, travel. Try to travel as much as you can, especially outside the country if you can. Just engulf yourself, or just jump into different cultures. Really try to learn how other people think, and all. I think that's an excellent way. Especially, shoot, Mike. Yeah, you've been all over the world, so yeah, that's really been I think a thing for you. But yeah, I'll let you speak on that.
I mean, I won't say that around the world is really what you need to do. What
Okay.
I will say is you need to connect with other people of different aspects of life. And what I mean by that is connect to people who are from Korea, connect to people who are from Germany. You don't necessarily have to travel, but learning their mannerisms, learning how they act and seeing how they act, and being a person in their way of form is, and engulfing their culture as a whole, will teach you a lot more that you don't know about your culture. Like for instance, John is right. I've been to Korea, I've been to Germany. Korea is definitely different. They allow prostitution and stuff like that, which is really
Wow.
weird. And I didn't like that. But the things that they also have to offer, like for instance, like they had a which was pretty cool. They had this place called Busan. And in Busan, they have a bullet train that takes you there. It only takes about an hour, which is pretty crazy. And when I got there, I'm looking around, there's all these giant buildings, right? And it's like, wow, what the hell just happened? I was just in this part of town that looked like nothing was there. And now I'm in this part of town that has giant, like, city. It's like a giant city like ours. And it's different because you can't tip anybody there either. They take tips as sort of a disrespect there. So you have to be very conscious of what you're doing when you're in different places.
Yeah.
And I was at Busan, and like it was great because, like, don't get me wrong, like let me put it this way: the whole city was a whole entire party city. That's what it was about.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I was in the military. That's where we went there to do party. But what was cool about Busan is we were at this club underground having a blast. And then the very next, like, it became morning time. It was like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever in the morning when we finally decided to leave our dormitory. And when we left and we walked outside, we only saw the sun just coming up. And we're on a beach. Like, literally, the club's right here. The beach is right there.
Wow.
And I walk outside and I'm just like, dang, they got a beautiful beach right here. And it's right next to all these big cities, like a big city that you expect like toxic waste and all this stuff to come in. No, it's literally an ocean that is clean, like clear water, like from where I am, from the Virgin Islands, like it's clear water. Like I could see the bottom of the ocean instead of being like, yeah, I ain't going in that, like how I am here in Virginia. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I wouldn't say people need to like literally go out, but they need to understand other cultures to see their point of view, because that entirely changes your point of view. I would say military for me, personally, because I have another person. You've met him, Peter. His name is Lord B. Swordsman. You met him a few times. You haven't really talked to him, but you met him.
Okay.
But he's in the military now, and he's in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole different like vibe over there versus what we've been to. Like I've been in Germany, so I know Germany city is like, oh, everybody's working throughout the whole day. The city is really busy. Go to Germany at night, totally different vibe, man. Like literally party city, like from going and working to straight party city. Like, and you're just like,
Wow.
what happened within the like couple of hours that we weren't on the street, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what happens, and it's different. So that's why I say, like, you know, there's a different vibe for everything, and you got to kind of like look at everything as a whole. And I won't say, you know, religion isn't a big one of it too, because I mean, people don't try new things. They're always like pertaining to the religion. I'm gonna say religion is important to a lot of people. What I will say is also understand other people's religion, and what I mean by that is read on their religion. Don't just sit here and sit like, oh, mine is better because this, and this. Kind of understand the graphs of why their religion the way it is. Like my best friend in my whole entire life, she's Islamic, and me and her talk like it's no day tomorrow, but she explains her religion to me perfectly fine. And that's why I say, like, keeping that open mind to understand why they have their certain values and why they do the things they do is what you really got to engulf. Because I've never been to Islam or Israel or anything like that, but I understand it to the point where I can be like, okay, I kind of get why they do the things they do. It makes sense. And that's why I say people need to not just like involve themselves in like traveling, but honestly involve themselves with people that are of different statures or race. Like that's really what it is. And I wouldn't even say people are a race. I think we are a race already, right? Because I will say they need to develop themselves in different religions of other people. I won't say people as in race, because they're not race. We're all one race. So I don't
cultures. There are many cultures around the world too. Yeah.
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 That's what
so
I mean.
each
Like cultures, I was trying to figure that one.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. No, I like what you said about that. I'll come to you in a minute, John. So you talked about almost like traditions, like cultural traditions, how, you know, after a certain time or in this certain area, you know, it's normal in these things, or you don't want to disrespect them by doing something that might be normal in another culture. I know here in America, it's almost like you're raised like, don't leave food on your plate because, you know, you're going to waste it. But then you go to other, you know, you talk with people from other cultures and they see, you know, if you're a guest in someone's home and you finish the food on your plate, it's almost like, oh, well, did I not feed you enough? Like, and it's almost seen as a sign of disrespect, because but you wouldn't know that if you didn't go experience those other cultures. But I like what you said about it's not necessarily travel. It could be travel, but not everyone has the means or the resources or the finances to travel. But I mean, we live in an online world in a sense. Like 2020 was almost all online. And so many things are, you know, people are realizing how much potential there is for online interaction, communication as well. There does come a cost with that. You lose a lot of channels of communication, like in face or in person, things like that. And body language in some ways, if it's not like video calling all the time. But you do have opportunities, or most people in some form or another have opportunities to speak with people from different areas of the world who grew up in different cultures, or who maybe had different experiences than you did, or maybe very different experiences than you did, or very little of the same experiences as you did. And I really love having discussions with people on that. I like also what you said about open mind, is because I know I don't know everything and I almost wouldn't want to know everything, but I do enjoy hearing new perspectives on things. I do enjoy learning about new things. And I do actually, I personally find enjoyment in being wrong in some way. I know a lot of people don't, but I would rather be right next time, or understand how and why I'm wrong, because that's important. Because if I only know what I know, and I, you know, base my actions or my beliefs off of what I know, and now there's new information that may not exactly line up perfectly with what I know, or I can't find a way to fit it in, but I know this to be true, well, that means that something I believe or something I know to be true, or, you know, what I've always thought of as true or the only way or the best way may not be the case. So I love that, I guess, point of recognition in my mind, where I'm like, oh, wow, like that. Now that fits, well, that makes so much sense with this and this and this and this. And it's almost like you have a puzzle, you have a big puzzle.
Let me ask you one quick question here, because
go ahead.
You've been asking us these questions. John and me have talked about this a lot. in your mind, you already established some way or form of how you think, how you act, how you do things, right?
Okay.
Off of that alone, are you predetermined to do all your decisions not knowing that you did them already?
Am I predetermined to do all my decisions?
Mm-hmm.
Or what do you mean? How? Ask it another way.
So what's the best way to phrase this, Atkins?
Do you have a destiny? Are you destined to do things, or do you have free will to choose your path moving forward in the future, or is it, already determined?
I like to think that it's fluid. I mean, I don't know my next decision I'm going to make. Maybe someone does, somewhere out there. I don't know. But I like to think that the decision I make will have an impact. Just like the decision someone else can make can have an impact on me. I know just pretty close to here, there was an accident that was at an intersection that was, less than a minute in front of us. There were no emergency vehicles on scene yet. And that easily could have been us, but there was just someone blew a light and they hit someone going through the light. One person had green, one person had red, and red means stop, green means go. The person who had stopped didn't go. So, or didn't stop. So I think that people can be influenced by, or people's destinies, I guess, can be influenced by the free will and actions of others, because we all have the choice to make a choice. Is kind of like how I think about it. And we have the choice to make good choices, or choices that will result in better outcomes, or choices that can result in worse outcomes. We never know everything at the beginning, but I would like to believe that most people make the best decision that they can going for a particular outcome, or, branch off of a certain outcome, given all the information that they have. But maybe there was a better option or a better choice they could have made that they just didn't realize they had at the time with their limited information. So I like to think it's fluid. I like to think that people's destinies aren't already set. Everyone's dealt a different hand of cards in like your skills, talents, where you grew up, how much money you had growing up, that kind of thing. If your parents were still together, how many siblings you had, all of those play into like nature versus nurture, like the nurture aspect of how you were raised. But your DNA is kind of set in that, like, it's going to be really hard for me to change, certain things about myself. And maybe some things I'm not going to be able to change or experience in the same way as other people. So I believe that some things are kind of set, but our choices are definitely fluid. Like, I can't change where I was born. I can't change who birthed me. But I do believe that like our destiny is determined by the choices of ourselves and others around us. So, but I could be wrong with that.
It's a good answer.
Piggyback off what Mike said, and also what you said as well, Peter. Like, once you really think about it, though, why do you do the things that you do? You have these choices, but what determines those choices that you made? Like, for example, like, I'm hungry. I want something to eat. I'm going to look for something that I like to eat.
Yeah.
But I didn't determine what I like to eat. Yeah. So I'm now making a choice that ultimately, a level below me, I didn't choose. So, it kind of, it's kind of weird, as in like all of these moves that you make, all these decisions that you make, what is influencing it? And are you really in control?
From that, who are you? Because that's almost
It's so funny because we did that same exact thing that you just said. I said to him too. That is so funny. That is so great.
I use the word influence. Sorry if I'm being a little too hot on my mic here. I use the word influence, and I think that a lot of things influence who we are and who we become, and influences the choices that we make. And we may not make the best decision, but we may think we're making the best decision because of the limited information we had available and based on our past life experiences. And that is who we are, is a set of, past experiences and information and things that we've learned. And so I would believe that we are choosing, we can choose this and we can choose this. And there have definitely been moments where I've thought about making another choice, but ended up not, or thought about, oh man, I shouldn't have made that choice. And I definitely didn't have to. But I think that it comes down to almost like individualism or like personhood. Like if I'm just a collection of experiences and beliefs and knowledge, past knowledge or brainwashing or anything else, then yeah, from a sense, then it's not me making that decision. It is already predetermined what decision I'm going to make. But I believe that I exist and that I have the capacity to make a choice that, may change in an instant what choice I'm going to make. So I mean, I understand what you're saying. And like destiny could be a factor if it wasn't us. But I believe because each person has that capacity as a person, like we are fluid, we're fluid commodities by nature. And so, at least in my opinion,
this is where I love to intervene with this stuff, because this is where it becomes fun, right? John knows my standpoint on this. I believe every human being has their own destiny, but they have multiple destinies. What I mean by this is you are influenced by other people to make those decisions. Those decisions are already predetermined already by destiny, but you choose which path you want to walk. What I mean by this is essentially you always have a choice to pick which side of the road you want to walk on.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. But with those choices that you make, you're already unleashed a whole nother list of choices that could be down the road. It's kind of like being, if you've never played it, it's a game called Detroit Become All Human.
Okay.
They have it perfectly set out. When you make a choice, another segment opens up. So therefore, that choice has just now opened another predetermined slot of wherever you're going.
In the game.
Right.
That's a limited capacity of potential outcomes.
Game, but I'm saying that is how I look at it as, because if you look at yourself as taking a choice and making a choice, those choices result in a destiny of one of those choices. And then you
predetermined
open up a
number of destinies.
Yeah.
Or an infinite number of destinies.
There's infinite number of destinies.
So is it really destiny, or is it our choice choosing which destiny we end up
It's your choice
living?
Which destiny you live in, but it is already predetermined where the destiny is going to be.
So I'm thinking like
I understand what you're saying. I'd have to think I'd have to think about that a little bit more, but okay, go ahead, John.
Oh no, I'm thinking like you're thinking like a flow chart. You have this one segment and then a decision, then you have splitting, and it keeps going out and splitting further and further.
Infinitely number,
beyond any one of those paths, pretty much. But yeah. What was that, like the multiverse or something like that?
It's crazy to think about, because even like there's I think I was telling you about it at one point. There's this the Noah's Ark, for instance, which was known to keep a whole bunch of secrets and stuff like that. There's a lot of history about this other ship that literally is, so let me ask you this one. You have a ship, right? You start in a voyage, you're on a ship. You're on the ship, and it starts getting beat up, and you're gonna replace a old part with a new part. Is the ship still your old ship or your new ship?
I've heard this.
It's a different version of your old ship that's better. Okay, I can go along with it. Yeah,
you think so, right? But is it a new ship or is it an old ship? Because this is what districts humans to be different. Because if you continue to think about it, your ship will keep continuously getting hit or beat up, just like your car, for instance, right? Your car could get hit, beat up, you replace the part on the car, but is it really just that part? And is it still like the same car at that point?
Collective. Yeah, you're talking about collective. If you change out one part, like if I get a heart surgery or a transplant of like a lung or something else, am I still me? But with someone else's lung or without someone else's heart or liver?
Right, but I'm referring to a ship here, not a human being, because a human being is totally different from a ship, right?
But I mean, collective. You were talking about a boat and a car, and if you take one part out of a car that either broke or damaged or anything else, it's still the car, because the majority of the car is still the car, or the car is an individual in a sense from that same or the boat.
So now I have to ask you my next question, because you said it is a majority still the car. Now, if I replace all the pieces on that boat, is it still the same boat?
you're talking about a sliding scale here. I mean, like you
But
can,
that's what
if
I'm
you don't
saying.
know the
No,
middle,
no,
it's easy to
right,
say
but
at the beginning
but
and different. Well, it has no
but
part
that's
the
what I'm
same.
asking, because that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking, because if it's still the same boat by your majority, if I have more majority new places, it's not the same boat. That's what you're saying to me, right? So that's why I'm asking you this question. You know, I'm not asking it to like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just making you
I've heard
think
of
out
this.
here.
Yeah, I've heard of this thought experiment before. It's actually like a certain, I forgot the name, but like on a simpler scale, like you have a hammer and the head of the hammer gets damaged. You have to replace it. So that's like 50%, you know, of the entire, you know, tool. So is that the same hammer? And then you replace the handle of the hammer.
Yeah.
Is that the same hammer? So
Yeah.
you know, I get what
And
you're
at what
saying.
point does it lose the old hammer and gain the
Old
new
hammer,
hammer?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think
That's
it
what I'm
comes
just
down to
asking.
assignment.
That's
You
what I'm
know?
asking.
I think it ultimately comes down to assignment because we know for a fact, you know, that's not the same hammer. It's different materials, you know, from different trees, from different, you know, pieces of iron. So but that assignment that we put on things, you know, it's different. But go
I got
ahead.
a good one here for you.
All right.
So for instance, human lives are very important to us. Everybody knows this. They carry on with their human lives, learning different things from everybody, right? So with that being said, we carry on memories of everything. Correct me if I'm wrong. We do.
And what do you mean? In what
in
sense?
some way, shape, or form.
In some way, shape, or form, as a human being, whenever you teach something or learn something, you carry that on. So from somebody teaching you that lesson to something that you learn down the road, you carry it on. So this is why I had such a problem to think about this scenario, because I'm a person that solely believes this. If I am continuously carrying somebody else's memory on in the sense of their lessons that they have taught me, and I have taught it now to my next generation, would that technically mean that they are both the new and old me? Because they are carrying my experiences.
See, here I would say it's fluid again. I mean, like,
but
I
see,
think
that's
that
what I'm saying.
I think that I'm never the
crazy.
person that I was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always who I am now, but I still see potential for who I can become. And so, like, that's why I mean, even when I was like in elementary school and younger, middle school, even, like, I acted, you know, certain ways, and it was not what society would say is, you know, like a good child. Yeah. Anyone who knows me, you know, or knew me at that time would say like, oh yeah, he's changed. He's different now, you know, but I'm still me. I'm just a different, you know, version or kind, you know, an updated, you know, me in a sense. In that, like, I've learned, I've, you know, grown, I've gained knowledge, I've gained skills, I've, you know, had more experiences. And I think I understand where you're going here, and that like at what point do you become a new person? I think like you're just, it always is what it is now. So if you think of it as like the label, like you said, excuse me, if you label it the old blank versus the new blank, well, it is always what you label it in a sense. And so but I don't necessarily see how that translates to people. But I mean, if you're talking about memories and like, so we carry on the memory of someone else or the information that someone else. Connection for you. Okay. Yeah. If someone else caught on, like if someone else taught me something, like some knowledge that they had or that was passed on to them, to us, like, I think it's still us, like as an individual or as a soul or as an entity gaining that new information. I think we can still lose things like for most people, memory is not constant. Like you don't always remember every single thing that happened to you. Some things you do forget, or some things are harder to recall in long-term memory. But I would still say that an individual can gain knowledge. So maybe it's not the car, or the boat, but maybe the boat is double the size. And so, or maybe the car is no longer this big. Now the car is this big, and then it's this big because you keep adding things to it, but it's still been the car the whole time. But now it is, it's a very different car, but it is still the same car. See, okay, so now I can
get you. Now I can get you to roll. Now I'm getting you, because this is the whole point. Because now we're going to the circle back to my first assignment of my schoolwork, right? Because I just kept adding skills to it. And see, that's where I wanted you to get to, is understanding that factor of it and knowing that you're just adding skills to it, regardless of who you talk to or what you give them. The skill sets that you give can be added onto somebody else. That's why the newest generation, like my sister right now, she's learning IT and she's freaking 12 years old, bro. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, they're learning IT before we even get a chance, like us, where we have to constantly study and continue. So that's why I said the newest generation will always have the most up-to-date stuff, and we're always adding on to their skills. So at what point do we say that that they're new, and now that's how you determine it? Is like literally we went in that circle just for you to see what I was getting at. Like, human beings are never left behind in my mind, because you're always celebrating their intellect and their skills that they've given you because you're using them every day. That is how I look at it. Regardless,
so then no one is really comparable.
Nobody's ever.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, for instance, I don't know if you know, Greek mythology has a big thing about deaths, right? A lot of people think that deaths are bad and so on and so forth, or is it Egyptians? I can't remember. I have to go back in my history. No.
Like quack, quack, ducks?
Death.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I misheard you. Okay, so death. Okay, got
You're
it.
Good. But it's crazy because some religions like Christianity and a couple others, a lot of people will see death and remorse over it, right?
I think Christians see it a little bit differently in my experience, but Christians see, well, it depends. I mean,
it just depends.
Yeah,
this is all I'm saying.
It depends.
So my take on death is never to remorse the dead. I am all about celebrating what they did for us. So it's a little bit different for me. I don't do the whole remorseful. I am sad. I am more of the type where death sucks and I have my bad feelings, but at the same time, I'm gonna use every single one of the skills they gave me to benefit somebody's life better. Okay. So that's exactly how I act as a person. That's why you guys see it all the time, every single day. That's why you get it every single day when you see me and you talk to me every day. Same with Atkins. When he talks to me, he's like, why do you think of things differently? You know, it's the same reason. It's because every skill I was taught is here, and I'm just throwing it on everybody else. They're gonna, if they're gonna bleed on me, I'm gonna bleed on you so you can get it too. You know, that's pretty much what it is.
Interesting analogy. But yeah, no, I really like that. I think that's a really, that's interesting. No, I like that. Yeah, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Like, we are like an accumulation of like our ancestors, like teaching and, you know, just passing on things down onto us. But it also just makes you wonder also, like, what would be a completely isolated like group of people? Like, for example, if like in a lab, they have this lab where they have just a bunch of babies, and, you know, they supply them with food and water and whatnot, shelter, but they what would that grow up to be? Like, those group of babies that had no outside influence, we didn't teach them anything. Would they develop language? Would they develop, you know, any type of the current societal, you know, boundaries, etc., that we adhere to today, you know? But we're just an accumulation. And also that brings another, you know, it's kind of morbid, but for example, like, what if like a nuclear war broke out and then like only like a few people survive? You know, how long will we survive, and will we retain the knowledge we know now? Like, pass on, you know, all this TVs, you know, airplanes and stuff? Would all of that disappear and we'd have to start all over? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry, kind of
we kind of went off topic a bit. It's kind of funny.
I mean, it's kind of still on topic because he's talking about human life. If there were new human lives that never experienced anything that we know now, or never experienced any kind of like new culture, new religion, new rules or laws or anything else, or like the ones that we currently have now, I mean, they would have to develop new ones. You'd think that like they would have their own language, they would have their own experiences, they wouldn't understand history, but they may be searching for, you know, answers through any forms, you know, that, or any experiences or types of technology that they came upon.
Kind of like the Mayan and Aztecs that we keep looking up, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, before you talked about the lab, I mean, I think everyone kind of did that anyway. I mean, because you have every gene pool per se, and every culture was kind of segregated into their parts of the world. And so you had people like marrying people of that same culture, or you had people marrying people, that started together in one closer pool. And as people branched out, as the known world got bigger, when there were 10 people in America like that coming over from Europe, or at least like that came over from Europe, they now had to live and create a new culture here on this new continent. And there were other people on this continent. But I mean, I think that's kind of common in many other cultures, is that it's becoming less common now, is that, well, it's acceptable and it's normal to marry people within your own culture, within your own genetic gene pool or anything else. And I mean, we do see more of that today, but it's not necessarily always seen as normal, or maybe it may be frowned upon for, someone from this area of the world to marry or, procreate with someone from this area of the world, or who, doesn't have the same foundation, or may not have the same religion, or may not have the same, understanding of anything. And yeah, I think that's kind of what we have now. I mean, in a sense, not that they started with nothing, but they had to create something out of only what they had. And I think I would argue that's still what we're doing. We just have a whole lot more that each person can access, I guess. So, I mean,
okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Obviously, we have more than the babies in your lab example, but I think we're all still, lab babies in that sense.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. I know you wanted to know a little bit more because you have a lot of questions on your thing. So I mean, go ahead and let the
no, this is totally fine. I mean, in all the podcasts so far, I haven't asked any of those questions. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So go ahead. Those are just like, if the conversation ends, backup questions. So
if the conversation ends. I think
but this is stimulating conversation, so I'm enjoying this.
Further than this, like there's been multiple times where we just continuously talk. But
let's go.
Okay, so let's see. I mean, like, we talked about human life and how different everybody is in their choices and how it's predetermined and not predetermined. We've also touched on the basis of like how, everything's changing in the new world and stuff like that. We also talked about relating how human beings have also developed their skills and their natural stuff from being in schools for too long and teaching them things that are, they're correct.
Too long? We haven't talked about that. Is school too long?
Huh?
You said how school is too long.
No, I said how schools teach people how to act correctly. Like their way of thinking, I guess.
Okay, I may have misheard something. Anyway,
this is what's going to be crazy. I got one. I got a good one.
Okay.
This is something we touched on, John, a little bit. Human beings have decided that this is correct and this is wrong. Period.
I'm out of water. Okay.
You can see where this conversation can get out of hand, right? So, I
mean, morality in general, yeah.
Right, I guess, but morality is just put onto you from all the skills that you were taught.
Yeah, keep going. No, I was summarizing the topic. Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of hard to
There's some people that think this is right or this is wrong, and there are other people that think this is right and this is wrong.
This is wrong.
And who's right? Is there anything that's absolutely always right, or is there anything that's absolutely always wrong? And I would, obviously I have an opinion on that, that's founded through other experience, knowledge, or belief systems. But yeah.
So here's the thing. I had a I'll put this out here so you guys can hear it. I had an issue a couple of days ago with one of my friends, and my problem was I have this thing about, I think I told you about this, Peter, and I told my friend pretty much like, you know who this is too, the John, TJ. We were all playing Magic for the Magic night, and I was telling him like, you need to he always talked in the middle of my games. He's been doing this for the last 2 years. like coaching people the whole entire time, and that's how I would lose. So 2 years fly by, everybody's still ignoring what I've been asking them to do. Roger, I have a thing about keeping the same energy. Keeping the same energy is what I district this off of. I pretty much asked my girlfriend, hey, are you ending your turn? People got annoyed by me asking this one question. People meaning TJ, he got annoyed. And because she decided not to end her turn, she swung on TJ, killing one of his cards, which he did not want to happen. So of course, being TJ, he gets rowdy and gets mad about it. I have no complaints over this, right? My complaint is this. If it was you and it was helping you out, you would have no complaints. But because it is helping the opposing team out, you have an issue.
Yep.
That to me, I don't like hypocrites, but I will teach you a lesson if be a hypocrite if I have to teach you a valuable lesson. If you don't like it and you see my point on why I didn't like it, why did you guys continue? So he continued to start telling me, can y'all all shut the fuck up because this is another game we've been asking y'all from the beginning. I said, nah, just like y'all did to me in the past, y'all gonna get this energy and y'all gonna feel all the stuff y'all did to me the same way, because I am very particular how I do things. Yeah. I do not let shit go because like he knows it too. John knows how I am. Like you do some shit to me that's foul, like, bro, you probably gonna get it worse. I'm gonna be real. And so, no, I had to pretty much everybody in the room decided to jump onto his side. I'm like, nah, fuck all that, because I've been asking y'all to not do this shit for the longest time. Nobody wanted to hear what I had to say, and now we're here. Y'all gonna deal with it. If y'all have an issue, the door is right fucking there. That's just how I am, because like I don't have a problem with people treating me the way they do, but just expect the same energy. So it all districts back to if somebody asks you not to do something and you continuously do it, you don't respect them enough. You don't care. Right? By that means, right? Because you've asked them multiple times, but they didn't care, so they just didn't care. But now that it is receptive and back to them, it's a problem. So this is why I say who is right and who's wrong, right? Because now this goes back to the whole topic of who's right, who's wrong type shit. People will say I am wrong for pretty much, I guess, saying something at all. But then people see that I'm also right because you've been doing this for the whole entire year and some change, and now it's a problem that you got the energy.
Now they're having to face the consequences of their actions, which, right. I mean, it's up to you whether or not they experience or like what kind of consequences they, of that, realm or plethora of options, I guess, of destiny, like that they experience. They made their choices. You still have a choice too. But hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta go get some more water.
Okay, you're good.
But that's a good topic, Mike, because shoot, there's a lot of history behind that, and a lot of people would have to, like outside observers would have to, take in all account, like how he did in the past games, what you did in past games, and then I guess make a determination based off all those facts of who was ultimately right and who was wrong in that circumstance or situation. But shoot, I toss you this, man, just to simplify it all. There's country A and there's country B. They live on two land masses. And in between them, there's lush land of food and everything, favorable land and stuff. Country A believes that they deserve that island in the middle of all that food and stuff. Country B believes the same. They believe that they need that food. There's not enough food for both countries. So ultimately, who is right in seizing that and surviving?
Right, but then it comes to the whole prospect of talking about it, right? Because I've been talked about it, right? So it's like if country A and B talked about it. Mm-hmm. Now let's for instance, it's all this food. So guess what food has?
Seeds.
Exactly.
But no, I'm saying there's not enough food for
Right,
both
but
countries.
you're saying that right now, but you never said there was no seeds in those plants. You never said there was no seeds in the food. So
All right.
therefore, by your understanding, I can make it that both of them live perfectly fine.
All right, think about this then. Think about this. We'll go another route. All right. So let's say they're two guys. They're sailing, and for whatever reason, shipwrecked, and they get stranded on an island, and there's rations enough for only one of them to survive until help arrives. Who makes the decision in eating the food and surviving, and who will end up having to die?
Wait, what did I come back to?
Oh,
This is not where we left off.
Right or wrong, right or wrong, who's, that
who's
type
right,
of thing.
who's wrong, right?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
Right. Like in that situation, with no outside observers, just person A and person B, rations enough for only one person to survive until help arrives. Who would have the right to survive in that case? And I think this speaks on human nature in itself, that ultimately it comes down to might. Who is able to, whether it be like firepower, whether it be through physical strength,
Survival of the fittest, yeah.
Right. That's what determines what is right ultimately. I personally think.
Technology, military force, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, the US, they are known as the police of the world because they're able to.
But that's my problem too, because if you want to go off of that, they decide to police up the world when we still have things in our own place to fix. So I can't say that it's by might. I say it's by people wanting to intervene on what they choose to do, because like at the end of the day, you still have that choice, right? Just like we're going back to our other topic, you still have that choice to do whatever the hell you want to do. For instance, for me, like, you know how I am, I'm gonna talk about it first. If you don't want to talk about it, these hands are free.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's a difference.
Hands are better.
But it's different. And that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you could fight about it, but I'm not the type to fight first. I'm the type to have a conversation with you first. So like, if you want to fight about it and you think you're gonna win it, by all means, think that you can have it. But at the end of the day, I'm always gonna strive to be better than the person next to me. That's just how I am. You've seen it multiple times when we were at khaki. Like, I've done it multiple times. I don't let anybody outdo me for a good reason, because my best effort is what is marked as the ending course. Just like that's why I explained to you guys, like, all the skills you guys learn from everybody else is a thing, because you're carrying all those people all their teachings, their lessons and everything, and all their memories essentially with you. That's why it's so important to pass torches. It's so important to be there for other people and show people like that love and that support, because like they got to also carry the torch that you taught them. And that is the biggest thing that people have to take away from this conversation, I feel like, is make sure you always pass on your torch. And what I mean by that is you don't have to have a kid, you don't have to have any of that, but make sure somebody else has that torch. And what I mean by that is having your skills, your mindset, the things you thought about, so that way they can kind of grasp a better understanding of the world. Because you sitting here saying that like it comes down to might, that doesn't make sense to me, because it's like you still have a means to talk before you fight. You can solve every issue we have right now if people would talk it out. And you can't tell me I'm wrong, because if people talk about every issue we had right now, it would be solved. It would be.
I don't know about that. I honestly don't know.
So what are the ones you think wouldn't be solved? Let's go with that one.
Well, I mean, it just comes to, in a general sense, the haves and have-nots. The haves will always believe that they deserve to have what they have, and the have-nots will always want to have what the haves have.
Right.
So I mean, there's always that constant struggle, and that relative sense,
right.
That relative sense and relative perspective of like, okay, I'm living in this situation, I want to live like this, or I'm living in this situation and I want to remain living in this situation. And I think it's that constant battle, because there will always be inequalities when it comes to that. some people will just be more well off than another person, and
Hold on, Peter. I'm about to get. I'm gonna get him.
and yeah, they're gonna look at that and I want that, and they're gonna try to take that. I mean,
But that is why America is wrong, because you just had an American mindset.
what do you mean?
Because Germany will pay everybody the same amount every year long, doesn't matter. And then they will pay for them to have a vacation and let them go on vacation during their pay period of vacation. On top of that, they will also make it that everybody goes to the schools that they want to. So, in other words, America is wrong in that mindset, because you just had an American mindset there, because Germany literally has proven that over and over again, that it doesn't matter about how you work or how hard you work. Everybody can live in society perfectly fine as long as you do your stuff.
Well, there's still crime in Germany.
And there's still crime, yes, but I'm not talking about crime. We're talking about the living, the standards of haves and haves not is what you're saying. And that's why I say I don't believe in the haves and haves not, because Germany has proven that over and over again that it doesn't need to be a thing. We as Americans have been doing that for years of doing this have and have not, and I don't agree with it.
I do agree that, the capitalist society is kind of going on another front, but just capitalism. There is a means. There's a point where it just is not sustainable at some point in time.
Yeah.
But I go back to your point in mentioning Germany and how they're running things. How is that any more beneficial, really, than any other situation if they still have to deal with crime?
Right. They deal with little crime, though. They don't deal with what we deal with here. Look at Americans running around with their guns. I mean, we just experienced, like, in last 2 months ago, like, I think a shooting of one cop and 25 dead on a highway, bro, because some guy had an assault rifle and had the rounds to do it. Like, come on, bro. Like, Germany doesn't do stuff like that. When you look at Germany's crimes, it's normally something of a knife. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's something physical weapon. And they're only going to hurt 1 or 2 people. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Like, there is a big difference when you go from a gun annihilating places to an actual knife or a sword or an axe. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a big difference when you talk about crime like that. I'm sorry, Peter. I don't mean to cut you off or anything like that. I'm just trying to explain to him that there is a difference in society that needs to be fixed, because the haves and haves not thing to me doesn't make sense. I have seen it firsthand that it doesn't need to be a thing. We have made it a thing in America, but it doesn't need to be a thing. That's all I'm explaining here. Because again, paid vacation. When's the last time you've been on a paid vacation, bro?
It's been a little while.
See that's what I'm saying. Like,
I agree with you. I think ultimately, how the military is ran, as in you have this job. Matter of fact, you take a test first to see which jobs you're best suited for.
Right.
And then you go into that job, no matter if you're, in law or you're doing laundry. You're getting paid if you have the same rank. I honestly think, and everything you need, food, shelter, clothing, medical, all that stuff is taken care of. And you have a little extra. But, when it comes to, the hyper-capitalist society that we live in, I think, that does cause problems. And I guess that'd be considered a socialist type company? I'm not company,
but society.
I guess. Society,
it's more beneficial for the people than not for the people is what I guess it is. Peter, sorry, we went on a rant. Go ahead.
All right. So I left to go get water and came back to a very stimulating conversation that had a whole lot of topics that I think are very interesting. I think you all kind of touched on it a little bit, or at least what I'm going to reply. I may not cover everything.
You're good.
But I think that you both kind of pointed out a problem in humanity, just all of humanity. I mean, John, you were talking about greed. You were talking about envy and lust, and how you want something that someone else has that you don't, or once you have it, you want something else or something better. I think that kind of plays into most cultures, most economies, everything, that people want something or they want better. And Mike, you were talking about how if it's between them and you, it's going to be you in a sense, how you're always going to act in your best interest. And so you were also talking about capitalism, how capitalism is everyone's acting in their best interest. And then within a free market economy, like if I own a company, but I want to sell a product, I have to sell it at a price and bring enough value to someone else, to a consumer, at a price they're willing to pay, which is comparable to the certain level of value that they receive from it as well. So it's a voluntary exchange of, like a voluntary transaction, an exchange of goods and services for money or something else, in that both sides are receiving selfish value in a sense. Like if $10 is worth the cheeseburger to me, I'm going to go get the cheeseburger. They're going to make $10. But if $100 is not worth the cheeseburger to me, like I'd rather have the $100. I'm not going to go buy that cheeseburger. And so like it comes down to like, or at least in that kind of economy, that everyone is benefiting. Some people may benefit more, but everyone is benefiting. I also like, John, what you talked about the military, in that you take a test that determines where you're best apt to be, or an aptitude test, or what you're best fit for, based on your talents, your understanding, your skill, your reception to new skills, things like that. And once
Peter, can I just say one thing? Germany actually does that too, but they do it for all their people. That's what makes it different.
I'm getting there,
John. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Elon Musk has a school, or a private school, I believe, that he started. I don't know much more about it other than what I've researched, which isn't a ton. But in his idea of the perfect school, it is that he's started, or that he's running, or funding. It is similar to that, in that the kids take a test very young, and then they're placed on a path or a destiny of learning specific things, or learning a specific trade or skill or career path, in that and then that will be the lens by which they see everything else. But they'll be amazing at one particular skill, and their time of, with very limited time of being able to absorb everything. I mean, kids, you're 2 years old, you're 4 years old, you are taking in a whole lot more than you're dishing out. Yeah. But when you're 25, 30 years old, it's a whole lot harder to absorb that information. You don't have the same, well, anyway. So, and yeah. Sorry. And so I think that is a way in that school system could be improved, at least here in America, is by seeing what the children would be best at on an individual basis, and then at least giving them an opportunity to experience a very concentrated
skill set
amount. Yeah. Or a very in-depth amount, or concentrated amount of that particular subject, or that particular, something that it's been determined, quote unquote, to be that child is going to be most receptive to, or going to be most interested in, or passionate about. I know that in anything in life, if you're more passionate about it, if it's more valuable to you, like you're going to be more apt, more willing, more, it's going to be more natural to you to invest more time in it and more attention in it. And the better your attention is, like on a certain thing, the more intense of emotions you're experiencing at those times, the more you're able to commit to long-term memory, and the more it becomes a set thing for you. And I think that America does have, its own issues. And one of those may be in the public education system. Each child on their own is not given the opportunity, the atmosphere, the same resources, quote unquote, that they need to thrive, or to flourish, or to learn and grow. I remember that when I was in, I think, kindergarten, I was about 5 or 6 years old. I was doing my sister's math homework in 5th grade. She was in 5th grade at the time. She was 5 years older than me. and it didn't like, and so when they put me in the education system, I'm not like trying to tout my own horn here. I'm just giving a personal experience. Like I went through like these books. They were called tag books, TAGs, talented and gifted books. And basically I was able to read fairly early. I was able to understand numbers and new concepts fairly early. But then when I got into the education system, there was a limit to how much I could be taught or learned or learn. And that was based on, I believe, like No Child Left Behind. And therefore, everyone, no matter their pace of learning or how, how much they could understand or their type of learning, whether they're auditory learner, visual learner, or learner, excuse me, visual learner, or like a kinesthetic, more hands-on type learner, they were put in the same learning capacity, learning environment, atmosphere as others, which did inhibit a lot of potential, learning potential, growth potential, like that I had, before I came into that atmosphere. I remember, going like in middle school, I like to think that all I learned was pi because I was already past that, in so many regards. There were some things I learned, in social studies. At that time, there were some things that I learned in like reading English. I learned some things, but I had already known the majority of those things through my environment or through my family or whatever have you, before those grades and those classes several years before. Like, and that's different for every single child. Like there's going to be some that, maybe like a year is not enough time for them to learn everything that they have to learn in a year. And maybe some children learn that in a month, 5 years before. And so like, how do you balance that? And so I think that in some way or another, that parents know their children. That could be argued. I don't think that they know everything, but they do their best, and they've had the most time or attention or responsibility in a way of taking care of a child. And so they understand certain aspects of personality or language or things that some other individuals may not experience. And so if parents were given the option or the choice, and kind of here's the point, if parents were given the option or the choice to choose where their children went to school, and it's not just the school closest to you in a geographical, area, or everywhere, within this line is, sent to this specific school. Yeah. And so school choice, but more than that, in that there may be some schools that are currently working under a system that is not going to be as beneficial for a particular child or student as another school. But currently, tax dollars, everyone pays taxes, but some people don't benefit from taxes going toward a school that they want to send their child to. Say it's a private school or anything else. Maybe you don't like that your tax dollars are being used on something that you don't receive any benefit from, but you're also getting that same benefit to send your child to whichever school you choose. And I think opening up that like, well, I heard it phrased as the school voucher system, basically that there's a certain voucher of an amount based on your area or anything else, that is determined to be like what each child receives or each family receives on behalf of the child, that can only be redeemed at like an educational institution or something else. And there can be different criteria for how they get licensed or anything else, or determined to be that. And I didn't really open up to that idea at first. I was like, wait, why would we subject the education system to the free market, and at first it was like, well, this is just public education, and it's always been public education, so therefore public education should always be public, and that's that. But like, that was what you were talking about, Mike, about the thinking in a box. And so what if, just pose this as a hypothetical, there was a school same 2 miles from you that opened up because there was a need in the market of someone who wanted to send their child to an or give them the opportunity of experiencing learning through a particular, say like the medical field or a vocational skill or something else like that they currently can't because it costs $8,000 or $9,000 a year. But their local school is already receiving $10,000 to $12,000 a year in tax dollars for that child being enrolled in that school. So now the parents are not only paying taxes, not getting benefit from those tax dollars, but then having to pay their own money. So currently we only have a system where the best schools, or quote unquote, the private schools, which are not the public schools that work under a different system, different, things like that, are currently only students going to them are currently only able to be students from more wealthy families because they don't get any of those tax write-offs or anything else, any kind of funding from government. And so, I don't know, there's so much here, but I feel personally passionate about it because if I were given different opportunities, or if there was somewhere closer to me in that I was able to have a little bit more one-on-one attention, or which I did get some in a very limited capacity, which I would argue had the biggest influence in my life was, I had mentors. I had one specific like behavior specialist because I acted out, in school. So I was set on an individual education plan that was not for not everyone had an IEP, but I had an IEP. So I was set with a behavior specialist who I became very good friends with. We were on the same level as far as like intelligence capacity to have like deep discussions and think hypothetically, things like that. And I was very socially inept. It was hard to make friends. It was hard to understand what being a friend looked like, things like that, because I wasn't treated. No one really treated me like a friend. And so like, I didn't know how to act like one to others, but people are saying like, be more this, be more this, be more this. But I didn't know what that meant or didn't know what that looked like until this one specific mentor or people outside the school, like maybe at a church or through family events or things like that. And so how much extra value could be brought to families with children who have a very, accelerated or a very, decelerated like learning plan, but it's more individualized to the family and to the parents and to the child. And then again, like opening it up to the free market, say an entrepreneur finds an opportunity to make money by opening a school in this particular area because there's a need for a school, a different kind of school in that particular area. Then there's opportunity to do that. And then if enough people see enough value in that school, or maybe they have the highest marks in this or in this or in this, then more people are going to be sent to that school. That school is going to receive more funding through the vouchers, and then that school will be able to expand upon that foundation and that premise. And so, I mean, I think that there's more aspects to that that fill in many different spheres, quote unquote, or different genres of society in general. I don't think that that's just applicable to education. And I'm not saying that capitalism is perfect. I'm saying that capitalism works on a premise of everyone is receiving benefit. And if you aren't going to receive benefit, you aren't forced to participate in those transactions, versus other systems, you are forced by law even to participate in systems, even that you may not receive any benefit or value from whatsoever. I mean, everyone can look at government and say they're very inefficient. They don't look for here. It takes a long time to actually pass anything through because it has to pass public anything else. But then you look at private companies and they work off a profit incentive, and therefore they have to come out in the black at the end of the month and not in the red, or else they fail as a company because they weren't able to draw enough value or bring enough value on for an affordable price, or a price that they can actually work within their budgets to people. But then you look at government, and if they don't have enough money, they tax, and you can't opt out of taxes. And so it doesn't work on a voluntary basis. It works on an involuntary basis. And then like to actually see any benefit coming from government. I'm not saying the government doesn't have a place. I'm saying that there are certain things that government is very is good at, or at least that it at least
It
does the
helps
job.
sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
get it.
But I would then argue that, you know, there are other capacities that there may be people, you know, who could step into certain roles, say nonprofits or say charities, in that they see a need, and therefore they say, hey, if you give us this amount of money, we will do it for you, so you don't have to. We will help. We will see a need. We will help people who, you know, are struggling to this or struggling to access things like this. And so, but that model is a voluntary giving of what I have to what I'm going to see direct benefit from. Maybe not that I'm going to benefit myself, but because I see value in it. And if no one else sees value in it, they're not going to get any money, I guess. And so it's like, I think, but I think you guys kind of both touched on parts of that. In that, like, Mike, I'll get back to one thing you said. So John was talking about the greed and the inherent like selfishness of I want. And Mike, you're right that a lot of other countries don't necessarily operate on the I want. They understand that there's an I want, but other people need too. And so even if I want, I can give to someone else in need. And I think that people in communities say that like but it comes down to like personal responsibility, personal choice, a heart, an attitude of seeing other people as equal to, not better than or less than, equal to yourself. Everyone, seeing everyone else as equal to yourself. You have something you want, they probably want that too. You have something you need, they probably need that too. And so, but it's a voluntary thing. It's the heart aspect of it. It's the desire to see your community thrive.
You're lagging.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's such a good part to lag at.
What was the last thing I said?
Sports, no.